Hello and welcome to Week 4, an introduction to psychology, and entering into an exciting chapter, consciousness, which surprisingly is very difficult to define. We're still trying to figure out how this works, still trying to figure out how the brain actually produces the mind. So you'll be reading about that in both the course book and the textbook. As we make your way through that particular chapter, I have two discussions and a quiz for you for this week. The first discussion talks about sleep deprivation. This might be something you're very familiar with, not getting enough sleep. You'll see in my video that there's a certain amount of sleep that people need depending on their age. And when people are young, they actually need some 7, 8, 9 hours of sleep. Now, individuals differ. Certainly, there's some diversity there. But what I would like you to talk about is your own sort of experiences when you've been sleep deprived, as to how has it affected you. Read the effects that are exemplified in the research within psychology, and then discuss how those have manifested themselves for you and the reasons why you might be sleep deprived, whether it's stress related or you lived in a noisy environment or things were going on. The next one is actually a little quirky, and that is, I have a hobby of doing dream interpretation. So I'm pulling this out. This is really kind of on the fringe of psychology, not really mainstream at all. But the use of symbolic interpretation of dreams as a way to get individuals to reach into themselves and explore issues that they may have. Now, this arises out of the psychodynamic and Jungian view of dreams, which is the assumption of the unconscious and the subconscious, where dreams happen and the symbolic representations of those dreams, which have meaning in our real life, enter into our consciousness, our waking consciousness. When we wake up and we remember the dream, if we can describe those dreams and then use methodology in order to interpret those dreams based on research that's been done and what those symbols mean, we might have an interesting conversation. That's as far as I go with it. So what I'm having you do in this particular discussion, and I do this in my face-to-face class, is I want you to think about a dream that you've had, and I want you to look up pretty much anywhere. This is just playing around. It's nothing official. But look anywhere and think about the objects, people, circumstances in your dream. Look those up in a dream dictionary and see if you can piece together the symbolic meaning of the dream. There's an apparent meaning. I'm running away from a person, I'm running through the woods, then I'm in a cave, I meet a bear, and then I have a soda pop, I open it up and I drink it, and then I blow up and I awake. So you look up bear, cave, chase. I'm not sure if they had soda pop and blowing up in there, but you look up those things and what do they mean symbolically, and think about your life and say, if this theory is correct, that we're working out some of these things in my life symbolically, then what is this dream telling me? And we assume within that field that it's proactive and it supports you, that your dream is trying to tell you something, reveal a revelation, or at least get your attention centered on a particular aspect of your life. So you can be playing around with this a little bit in the, what we might call woo-woo psychology. So it should be fun. The quiz is very straightforward. First question is describe consciousness. There we go. And then, this is a tricky one too, we do in this chapter address the issue of altered states as their result because of the consumption of drugs. Now, those drugs can be prescribed or they can be recreational drugs. They can be over-the-counter drugs. But each drug has a psychoactive effect. Now, in this particular quiz, what I'm asking you to do is to consider the actual neurology and neurotransmitter impact of a particular drug. If you wanted to look at marijuana, if you wanted to look at alcohol or cocaine or methadone or any drug that you want to look at, consider that, look it up to find out how it affects the nervous system. I'm not looking for the feeling that it gives you. You can include that if you've had that experience or know somebody who's had that experience. You can include that, but what I'm looking for is how is it actually bringing that about? What is happening in the nervous system itself that brings, we're kind of going back to chapter 3 on biopsychology here to talk about how is it affecting neurotransmitters. I want you to focus on that. So that will be the quiz, the second question in the quiz. The final thing you have to think about this week is the correlation assignment that was introduced in chapter 2. If you look up on the timeline, you'll see I put a video for the correlation assignment. That is our first special assignment, the instructions of which you will find in the special assignments chapter in the course book with all the instructions. There is some data in there, and you need to perform some correlations to determine in that particular situation whether or not it is more useful for a person to hire people on IQ or hire people on their interview skills. Now, this is all made up information. This is not real. We're not going to answer that question in any real way. The data in there is fabricated. But the story is an employer wants to know, do I just go with IQ test or do I just go with interviews? I don't have a lot of time and I want to pick the best people. The score that you're comparing to is performance. These are people that have been brought on. You know their IQ score. You know how well they did in the interview. Which one predicted their performance better? So read up on that in that chapter that's at the end of the book under special assignments. That's our first one for this year. That is due this coming week. So, bunch of work to do, 1 chapter, 2 discussions, 1 quiz, and a special assignment. That's your task for this week. Enjoy it. Try to stay awake since we're talking about consciousness. And I look very forward to hearing you talk about your dreams, since that's a deep hobby of mine. So I'll talk to you later.